Hello and welcome to our show, Getting Drunk with Madira Vogue. Today I have a very interesting guest with me, Hamza, and I am not going to speak much on this podcast. I'm going to let the pro podcaster speak about his journey and how he started this whole thing off. So over to you, Hamza. Hamza, I'll start with first question. How old are you? And I mean, at your age, how did this whole thing about becoming a podcasting coach come into your mind, or how did this whole party started?
I'm 24 years old, and this whole thing of becoming a podcast coach started during the pandemic actually. So, what happened was we all sort of wanted to get a new skill in our life, whether that was cooking that dalgona coffee or something else. So, I would work out every day, and I just thought of discovering and finding out what a podcast can offer in my life. So, I would be working out and then I would just go on like a Spotify and search what podcast would come in the top 10 and just start listening to them. And the amount of information that I could get from that 45 or 1 hour podcast while working out, it was like so good that I was like, if I had to read a book or maybe do an online course, it wouldn't be possible. So then I started like learning about it, reading more about podcasts, listening to more podcasts. And then I realized that if I had to start my own, what would it be about? And I was having like daily conversations like I'm having one with you with my friends, and they would be telling me about all the new things happening in their life. And when I would go back home and I would think about it, I would be like, this can actually be a podcast. The insights are great. Indian audience might want to listen to what he has to say. And that's when I got into it, started a Spotify podcast, ran it for 2 years, bought different guests onto it. It's called Out of the Hood with Hamza on Spotify. So a lot of like people's stories or doing different things. And after that, my first gig, my first opportunity in coaching came when one of my teachers said that come to our school and teach our kids about podcasting and what it is. It was just like a seminar first. And then after the seminar, I realized that the part of this entire podcasting thing that I like is actually educating people about it and also creating content.
Sure.
So then I got into the whole coaching space, then it went on to creating courses, and then that's how it's been.
Nice.
Thank you.
So if I have to spill the beans, or ask you, what is that one secret sauce that, goes in making someone a good podcaster?
Okay.
What would that be?
Okay. So I consider myself to be maybe somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't say I would be the greatest podcaster there. Yeah, obviously something that I'm striving for. But practically I would say three things like together make up that sauce. One would be कि भाई ज्ञान कम दो, like podcast है, but don't go out there to preach people get bored.
Yeah.
So
I also get bored where it's too preachy and people
yeah,
trying to say the same point again and again and
correct
again.
like for reals काम करता है top 3 points to doing XYZ.
Yeah.
But for a podcast I feel like ज्ञान कम दो, make it more emotional, add a lot of storytelling in it. Because when people see like our journeys for example and they see like what we're doing, then they get motivated, as you said, to go on that journey. So that would be one for sure. Second, I would say don't be afraid of experimenting. Let's say today you have an idea of going and launching a podcast, maybe in the fitness field. You started, you realize कि audience नहीं आ रही है and this concept that I have is not working. Go try bringing a guest on and try a podcast. Try and change your format. Try and change your setting. Keep experimenting till you figure out, what is it that should actually work for you. That is the second thing that I would say. And lastly, I would be like, be original. Like, be who you are. If you see a Ranveer Alabadia, you see a Raj Shamani, you see a Joe Rogan, and you idolize them, बोले कि ऐसा ही बनना है मुझे. It doesn't happen because you have a whole different storyline, whole different personality. So be yourself, and I always believe that however, like wherever you niche it down, whatever you decide to talk on, you'll always have an audience who's interested. Whichever part of the world. So be original at the core, and I think keep experimenting. 100% your idea should work according to me.
Sure. And coming to experiments, I think we have this very interesting coffee liqueur that we have got, and we would like you to experiment today it and tell us, how do you feel about it. Cheers.
What am I drinking? Some information?
It's a coffee liqueur, which is a concentration of coffee and some amount of vodka in it.
Okay.
And the brand is fairly new, so even I'm tasting it after a year. So
cheers.
Let's cheers to it. Cheers.
It's fab. So I love coffee. That's
Okay.
the reason I think I like this so much.
Well, this is to
Gonna
get our
keep
guests
drinking it.
loosened up. Alcohol does play a role in loosening up our guests.
Yeah, I try not to drink, but this is the one day I would, because I've been invited on another podcast.
No, it's all our pleasure to
Yeah.
have, guests come and share some authentic information which people, following Madira Vogue. I think now the whole community of digital creator has grown to a certain extent,
Yeah.
and everyone wants to learn how to monetize their content, how to do better. Everyone's learning, and the best part about this community is that we are getting trained by different people. We
Yeah.
are watching YouTube, but very few people are coaching,
Correct.
like how you are coaching, so it's very few people who coach. So if you had to like a coach, whenever I think about coach, the Olympics comes to my mind the
Okay.
most,
Yes.
so if you had to like give a regime to a
Okay.
podcaster,
Okay.
which is like to win a gold at Olympics,
ठीक
what
है.
would that regime be,
Nice. Suddenly switched to coach mode. So I'm thinking very technically. But okay, so I would say that there would practically, it would be a 3 kind of step routine, 3 parts of it. From which one I would say a creation mode, which is creation mode may like how you would like a track and field athlete would be running every day to practice. The same way you have to create content consistently,
Sure.
like experimenting, being in front of the camera, becoming comfortable, showing your confidence, bringing guests on, becoming comfortable. So creation mode, I would say, keep on practicing. Then the second, I would say network, like how we connected over Instagram. I go to conferences, I go to like business meetups. I'm only there because I can connect with someone who can come on my show, which will lead to another opportunity in life,
Sure.
And the same thing happened with like the Shark Tank entrepreneurs who have
Yeah.
done shows with.
Sure.
It was the same thing. So network would be the second one. And the last I would say is just becoming aware of the industry,
Sure.
like testing the grounds, making sure that okay, agar I'm going for this race, 400 meters, who am I running with, right? So when you go and you deep dive into the industry and you see, okay, this podcast is doing this in a good way, this one is doing something else, you can try and figure out through that what should I do.
Sure.
And when once you practice that, you get that X factor that belongs to you.
Sure.
So I would say these 3 things: creation, networking, and just being in the industry.
Yeah, that's very important. I think we have to know the industry we all are functioning in,
Yeah.
and it's good that you are coaching people, making them aware about it. So now coming to one of the most celebrated podcasters, the GOAT, I would
Yes.
say, of podcasting industry, Joe Rogan. What is so good about it? I know you've spoken about Joe in your
Yeah.
YouTube
Yes.
video as well.
Correct.
But if you have to like simply break it down, why is he the leader and making those millions of bucks, and and what is it that he brings in his podcasting that is so unique,
Yeah. So honestly, like one of the greatest, yes, for sure, what he's done is like very commendable. But I would also say, like, are there other podcasters equally good? Yes. Are they still in front of the masses? Maybe not. And they are yet to come,
Sure.
So that's very important, but he needs to get due credit. Where I would say is that the man has been extremely original and honest with his stuff. So from the guests that he brings, the
Sure.
conversations he has, he's not scared of even discussing controversial things. A lot of his episodes have been taken down by Spotify for the same reason.
I remember the
you know?
Elon Musk recent episode which created so much
Yes.
controversy.
Because of the things happening
Yeah.
on the show. So all these things that are there, it takes a lot of quote unquote balls, if I can use the word,
Yeah.
to do these things, as such a famous personality, because you receive backlash. Whatever you do,
Yes.
people are going to give you criticism. So that's where I would say, also from a technical part, in terms of a setup, like how we are setting this called like a podcast setup. So the way we are sitting over here, his whole setup is so nice, it gives you that spiritual calm vibe. And he also, I don't know if you ever realized that if they talk on something that they are not clear about on certain facts, they have one member who's on a laptop researching that pulls it up on a screen.
Oh.
I don't know if you've ever
Wow.
seen that.
No, I never
like for
noticed
example,
that.
I'm Joe Rogan, I'm talking to you and we're talking and I'm stuck somewhere. I'll ask that guy looking over there. Then you look up on the screen.
Okay.
Jahan pe that guy is actually bringing
nice.
it up.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
that's like having a good team researching, wahan pe they're very solid.
Yeah.
So the chances of going wrong are less. So
Sure.
in terms of all these things, I think he is the good.
Yeah, he's the goat definitely, and I think people are in India also getting now. Like if we see Ranveer Alabadia, we have so many people now who have started
Hmm.
their journey of podcasting.
Yes,
There are a huge number of people who
correct.
follow him, and his journey is also unique. But
Hmm.
as a podcaster, what is your opinion about what Ranveer is doing today? And
Uh, okay, so it's funny actually that a lot of people I talk to give his reference because he's taken over the Indian market, if you say.
yeah,
Again, a lot of backlash and people are like, oh, he's dramatizing, zyada ho raha hai yahan pe, and a lot of
mm,
criticism. But according to me, because I come from his side, what clarification I want to give is that being consistent, getting guests, recording to our podcast is not a joke,
yeah,
and because you can do that with originality, he's been consistent in the YouTube game for what I think maybe more than 8 or 9
9
years,
years, yeah,
which is again not easy. He's understood the pulse of the Indian market. He brings shows on like spirituality, gods,
mm,
whatnot, and so much into depth, which would be very difficult for any average podcaster to do,
sure, yeah.
So that way I think he knows the pulse of the market. He's good. He has his own niche. Don't try and copy him, I would say.
Yeah.
But lot to learn from
Lot.
Ranveer for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, and I said, like you said, it's
Yeah.
not easy to record a 2 hour podcast, have a
Yes.
team which is researching for the podcast, and the kind of topics that he selects are very, very, very,
100%.
very different variations is there. So I think our listener gets engaged quite
Correct.
interestingly. Okay, now who are your favorite podcasters? I mean, Ranveer is something which comes to our mind, top of the mind. But
Yeah.
who's your favorite podcaster?
Uh, so me as a personality, very minimalist that I am, and I like it when it's subtle. I don't like a lot of drama in things. So I would say, I don't know if you've ever heard of Diary of a CEO.
No, I
It's a
haven't.
UK based podcast, so
Uh-huh.
he also brings very like high level guests, very like nice, candid, cool podcast. So that's one I listen to very frequently. Apart from that, the Huberman Lab, which is a more
Okay.
science based
Uh-huh.
podcast, which is one I listen to. These are two good ones. Hindi mein I do occasionally listen to Ranveer if I like the guest or I'm interested in that topic.
Hmm.
Raj Chamani is good, figuring it out. A lot of startup based information if you're in that field. And apart from that, also to obviously the people listening, if you are in a particular niche, right? If you go on Spotify, search in that niche, there are so many different podcasts, it's so many different themes
Yeah.
to listen to. Like it's funny, like how in some particular country, you'll research and you'll find out there are two guys sitting talking about such interesting things,
Things, yeah.
and you get like sort of looped onto that.
Yes.
So
yeah.
just be out there searching and go for topics that you are interested in,
Sure.
you're passionate about, and you 100% find something that clicks.
That's true.
That's
That's true.
just-
I think Spotify has opened a lot of
Yeah,
directory
yeah,
for us,
yeah,
here
yeah.
to explore. So coming to the like the basic question, like any creator wants to know,
Okay, I know where you're going.
And if you want to drink a bit before you answer that question,
Because
I don't
is
mind,
my first
because because that's the core of all of us, today morning sitting here on a Saturday morning doing this
Yes.
is how to make money. How does one monetize their podcast or get into that stream of earning money? Because let's be honest, everybody likes a little bucks, and little appreciation, but a
100%.
little more money is good, So how does one get their podcast monetized, or what are the platforms?
Okay. So, first of all, yes, money very important. Also, it helps you grow your show itself. You take that money. If you're a good entrepreneur, you invest it back. वो show बढ़ता जाता है. So that way, it's very important. How? It's like any YouTube channel, blog that you would run. It runs the same way. Currently in India, I would say there are not a lot of people paying you out directly on your listens, like the people coming and listening to your podcast. So you have to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say follow it like how you follow your YouTube channel. You can do merch if you have a good following already on maybe like an Instagram, like how you have 40k. If you start a podcast, you would maybe have half of those listeners. You can sell your merchandise. You can do digital products, by which I mean you can do courses, ebooks, cheat sheets on whatever your niche is. You can do maybe a recipe book, for like different spirits and making cocktails, just an example. And other kinds of digital products that people can first listen to you. If they like what you're talking about, jaake from your website or whatever, they can go and download it. You can charge a few bucks for that. That's one way. Merchandise, as I said. A lot of ad revenue you can generate individually, by which I mean, let's say I'm a fitness influencer. I go and reach out to Fasten Up, which is a brand that does like protein powders and all, and then I talk about them and I tell them that मेरा इतना audience है, maybe 50,000 listeners का, and I will talk about this thing and I'll promote it, give my link, and people can go ahead and purchase. That's the way. Affiliate marketing again through Amazon. So these are basic ways that you can do it. If you want to take it a notch higher and make it your business, like how I did it, is that I converted into my whole course and then like a coaching platform.
Sure.
So if you come and listen and be like, okay, I'm interested in podcasting, मुझे भी ऐसा कुछ book करना है, I want to bring guests on talk, then I teach you how to do it in my 4+1 week course.
Sure.
So that is the ultimate way to do it, according to me.
Sure. So yeah, I think those are very important things that any creator wants to know, how to get, monetization. And these are very interesting points. I mean, digital products, and I think these are best. I even it comes to my mind when it comes to Madira Vogue. So yeah, thank you for sharing these tips. I'm sure a lot of us will be wanting to experiment with this. So last question, I would make it a little candid. How has your journey been, so far? I know you just started, it's a long way to go, you're just 24, and podcasting is developing as an industry in India. But one moment, one phase in life where you felt giving up on it maybe, or you felt that this is not working?
As human beings, I feel we feel it every week. Honestly, even I do. There are moments where I'm like, yaar, what is it? Because I'm a big believer in the thing of escaping the matrix. For people who don't know what that is basically you taking control of your life and designing it in a way that you're happy. Because today when we, like for you all, for example, you'll have to go, you'll have responsibilities, and when I have responsibilities, then we try to give in to maybe the comfort in life, or where we have that set income coming in and all, which is difficult to do if you have another passion, right? You have to keep going at it, and I respect that. It's commendable for everyone doing that. But I just made this very tough decision that what will make me happy, I asked myself, and then I designed my life accordingly. I focus less on the income part, more on the completion part, how I feel, and therefore that also pushed me into a lot of like inner work, spirituality, like what is my life about, when you think about it, because we are in a daily rut of going through things, just fast pacing it. So whenever I do feel those low moments, I'm like, jana chahiye. I look back at those 2 years of the effort that I've put on. Another tip that I could give you, I don't know if you've heard about the Strangest Secret. Do you know what this is? So the Strangest Secret is basically a 30-minute audio by this guy called Earl Nightingale, who used to be a radio jockey, and then he did some work in science. And this thing talks about what is the secret of life, like what makes us successful. And it basically comes down to this whole thing of manifestation that we know today. Like the secret is that what we believe in our head, and if we put the efforts to it, it has to come true. There's no way. Like that's our biggest power, creation. So that's something that I've been listening to consistently. I've broken it. Then again, it's been 78 days. Today will be the 80th day that I listen to it. So that's a practice of mine. So whenever I feel I put it on, listen to what he's saying, and I'm like, if I have the ability, and it will happen, And just meeting, when I meet people like you, like all of them, and I am like, everyone's working so hard, everyone's doing it, let's collaborate, let's make things happen, That keeps me going, I would say. And my baby, my show. So bringing to that, I forgot to ask you one question, and if you want to drink a little more for that, would be nice. Only I'm drinking, I'm not drinking only.
So, every show, podcasting show has a noise or a sound, background score or an intro. If your podcast had a particular sound or an intro that you had to make, what would that be? And you can go as creative as you want.
Okay. So I'm a moody person with my show. So initially I started doing solo podcasts where I was talking about topics. One day I'll talk about something fun. So I would go and create like maybe or take a very upbeat thing, like like a Snoop Dogg intro or something similar to that. And then when I had like spirituality, Zen podcasts, I would be like, calm tunes like those 78 hertz and all, where you have that frequency that plays and all. So actually when I started out, I focused a lot on that. But coming to realization, and if you do start a podcast, I think the signature sound is important. But it comes down to the conversations you have. I would say make that the sound that you want to give out. That's the most important. Even if you don't put an intro, it's fine. Lekin conversation mein impact hona chahiye. That's the most important. But again, answering your question, because I have
you have to give me some sound, Hamza. You can't go without giving a sound.
I would take a very strong like hero intro sound, like a drum beat, like a ding 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 ding, that kind of a thing. I think I would do something like that if I had
Okay,
to.
that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you so
so
much.
much. It was a
Thank you for
pleasure
having
having
me.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you. So stay tuned and keep getting drunk, but drink responsibly on Getting Drunk with Madira Vogue. Thank you.
See you.